Hello and greetings once again, my subscribers, fellow OTs, and individuals and people from all walks of life who wish to apply for a post within the public sector in South Africa. My name is Gaddafi. I'm the owner of Belteshazzar Island. I'm an occupational therapist by profession, and I have decided to do a short presentation on the Z83 or Z83 form. Uh, just to help people out there who are not familiar with the form, and yeah, I'll share my reasons further in the presentation. So without wasting time, let's get down into it. And before I forget, don't hesitate to subscribe or even share the video with other people that you know are applying for posts in the public sector or even our government, and across various departments, be it Department of Education, Health, or even agriculture or social. What is it? Yeah, all the available departments in our country. So, without wasting time, feel free to like and share this video with others. So, what is the Z83 form? Basically, the Z83 form is one of the prerequisite forms that you are required to fill in if you are applying for a post or a vacant post in 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 the public sector in South Africa. Uh, what is its purpose? Uh, the purpose of this form is to assist a government or department in selecting a person for an advertised post. So basically, the form is there to uh, make ease the process of selecting best candidates or even possible candidates for an interview for a particular post within our government uh, departments. And then how can one get access of this form? You can search for it online. Just type Z83 on Google search and then it should pop up. One important thing that I want to highlight about the form is that it's updated, I think, annually. So just make sure that you're downloading the recent Z83 form when you're applying for a post. In as much as it's being updated yearly, the changes are really like minor. They might just change the format and not even like the contents of the form, but that happens I think every year. And then the other platform where you can access it, it's DPSA, which is our government website. It also that on that website you also find circulars of all advertised or vacant posts within various departments across South Africa. The other thing about the form is that you get like an editable one that you can fill in using your computer. You also get like a PDF version of the document that you can print out and then fill in using like your pen. And then why have I decided to do this presentation on this form? Because it's very important and most people don't even know what it is, and you find that they're applying for a job, and by at least some institutions, they are very kind to say to ask you when you're submitting your application if whether you have filled in the form, and then they can assist you in completing it because not everyone knows about it. So that's one of the reasons why I think it's important that I just talk about it a little bit. Secondly, those who have heard about it from others, they do fill in the form, but there's been like mistakes that they made on the form or sections that they left out, which had them disqualified for a particular position. And you find that this person had all the necessary requirements in terms of their qualifications, experience, but they only made a mistake on the Z83 form, and then for that reason they couldn't be enlisted for interviews. So apart from that, it's just to help people who are applying for employment within the public sector to just impart information and to ensure people understand each and every section of this form that I'm going to be talking about. One of the things that I just wanted to share before I go into each section of the form is that on the if you have the copy in front of you, you will see that on the left side of the form, on the top left corner, you will see there's an arrow pointing downwards with some basic information there, which I think it's important to just read and understand. There's information about the purpose of the form, which I already shared, and then also who should complete this form. It says only persons wishing to apply for an advertised post or position in government department, and then there's also additional information there. Just before who should apply, who should complete this form, you will see it says this information may be used to identify candidates to be interviewed, which is very true. They use, because if you check the structure of the Z83 form, it's almost like a summary of a CV. So it hints, it covers some of the most important aspects about your professional and even I'd say personal identity, because there's a section of like of personal details, but it hammers mostly on your professional qualities as an individual. So without wasting time, I also just wanted to highlight that the Z83 form has 7 sections divided in letters. So we're gonna start with the first section, which is section A. So on section A, you will see it has about 4 blocks there that you need to fill in. Most of advertised posts in government have what we call a reference. So when you're filling in this form, you just need to be able to know the position that you're applying for, and then under what department. As I've mentioned, it's used across various departments, be it Department of Health, Department of Social Welfare, Department of Agriculture, Department of Health, etc. So you need to also be able to indicate the department that for which you're applying a post in. And then there's also a reference number, which should be next to the advertised post, which I'll talk about if I ever get to talk about the department circulars. And then the other section there, it requires you to indicate how soon can you start if you are offered this position. So if you are applying for that post while you are, let's say, currently working for another department, or currently working at a different institution within the same department, you just need to indicate how long before how soon would you be able to start if you get called for the position. So if you are not employed, then you can just indicate that immediately you'd be willing to start. If you need to serve, let's say, like 2 weeks notice, or even like a month notice, then you can just indicate after 1 month or after 2 months. So that will go into the the 4th block of section A. So you just need to ensure that everything on that section is completed. If there are any questions around that section, feel free to ask them in the comment section below. And then we have section B, which is quite extensive, especially on the questions for which require you to tick either yes or no. But looking at them, they are not really they're self-explanatory. But the important section that I want to touch on, it's the top part of section B, where you're seeing it requires you to put to fill in your surname and your full names. After that, you'll see it says date of birth on the far left, né? And then there's a section there which indicates where you're supposed to put your date of birth, beginning with the date and then followed by the month and followed by the year. So that's one block or box that most candidates also miss, in as much as you might put your identity number there or your passport number. As long as you have missed any of the blocks on this form, it might get you disqualified, né? And then the rest are also self-explanatory. You just need to indicate your race and then answer these questions honestly and appropriately. So moving on, this is also like a section B continued. You will see, so the first page of the Z83 form will have section A and section B, and then at the bottom of these sections you will see at the bottom right corner there it says initial. So that's the second position or part where people miss and they get disqualified for that. So you just need to initial that page to verify that the information that you have shared on the on the on the on the form, it's correct. Okay, so moving on to section C. Section C of the form, it's about your contact details and medium of communication. So basically here they're looking for the way that you want to be reached in case you are called for an interview, or even once you have acquired the job. The other thing that they need there is what is it? The language that you prefer to be communicated, either Afrikaans, English, or Sotho, or Zulu, or Xhosa, whichever language you prefer to be communicated with. And then the tip that I can give you here is that if you are not someone who checks their email on a daily basis, just rather put your telephone number, work telephone number, or even your cell phone number, much better, because then they can just call you. And I'm supposing your number will also be in your CV, so the HR person might get your contact there. But it's important that you also fill this section. And then section D is just on your language proficiency, especially in a country where there's about 11 official languages. So, and also just being multilingual and fluent in multiple languages, it's a, how should I put it? It's an advantage that you need not to undermine, and you need to be able to list all the languages that you can speak and even write, and then indicate your proficiency in both. So let's say the first language, which might be your home language, for me that would be Pedi, so I'll put Sepedi there, and then I'll have my English second, and then isiXhosa, and then isiZulu, and then maybe Afrikaans at the end. And then you'll just have to indicate under speak on the right and say either you are good or you're fair or you're poor in that language. But also my other advice on this one is to never use poor, because remember, you are advertising yourself. So rather put the languages that you know you're either good at, or at least you're fair in reading and writing them, than to list thousands of languages but your proficiency is you're poor. So it's just shooting yourself in the foot. Moving to section E, as you can see, section E of the Z83 form, it's about your formal qualifications, and here you just want to start with the most recent ones, then going down the years to your high school or even college. So with that being said, if let's say you have a PhD or even a master's in your profession, you can start with that and then indicate the type of qualification. So you're gonna start by naming the institution under which you studied, and then just indicate the type of qualification, either it's a PhD, master's, or even a BSc, and then the year you obtained that. And for any institution that you indicate, you need to be able to fill in the type of qualification and even the year you obtained it. You can't just fill in the first section and then leave the rest. That also may get you disqualified. So that's section E, formal qualifications. It even says there from highest to lowest. Okay, and then section F. It's also about your work experience. So I would also just highlight the tip from the previous section to say start with like your most recent experience going to the oldest. So with that being said, you will just need to indicate your employer, either it was the Department of Health or it was the Department of Education, and then position held. Maybe you were an intern, you were doing your community service, and then also you will see that it says from and to. So you want to indicate the month there and the year for both, and then reason for leaving that position. Either you were fired, either your contract ended, either you got retrenched. You need to put the reason for leaving that position as well. The most reason that we've seen, it's end of contract, or even, yeah, I think, yeah, but you need to put your reason there. You'll see there's also a gray section there that reads, if you were previously employed in the public service, is there any condition that prevents you that prevents your appointment? Then you just indicate no there if truly there isn't any condition that prevents you from practicing within the public sector. If there is and it's a yes, you just need to also provide the reason. So you can't say yes and then you don't indicate the reason there. Okay, so moving on to the last section, you will see as similar to the first page of the Z83, there's also a section that you need to initial there. So just because you initialed the first page doesn't mean you can't initial this one. You also need to initial the second page, otherwise you might, let me say, you will get disqualified because of not initialing. And then just before I talk about section G, also there's a section you can see of declaration there. You just need to declare all the information that you've given to be true and correct, and also by signing under signature there and putting the date on which you signed the form. And then section G, it's on references, which is also very important and very, very much important. And the references that you have on the Z83 form, as like the previous information that we covered, it needs to correlate with the information that you have on your CV. So you can't be having different references on your Z83 form and then on your CV it's other individuals. Okay, which if people need, I can do a video on how to compile your CV, what sections are important, but most of the information that I touched on or that I spoke about from the Z83 should be in your CV at some point. All of it actually. So you will see you will need the name and let's say surname and initials, or even names in full of your references, and then their relationship to you. Are they your supervisor? Were they your supervisor? Are they your colleague? Are they your let's say either like a mentor in that role, or whichever position you've been working in before. And then you also just need to share their contact details, because one of the things that now they're normalizing in the public sector, especially the Department of Health, I don't know about other departments, is they're doing what we call reference check. So before you get appointed, our HR will send forms to maybe either all your referees and they will get asked to fill in the forms to verify the information that you either shared in the interviews or even on your application. So with that being said, I hope presentation is helpful to you. If there are any questions about the Z83 form, again, feel free to ask me questions in the comments section, and don't forget to subscribe. From Belteshazzar Island, I'm Gaddafi T, and I thank you.